This video is about how I make a collet handle for my bowl gouges, although I use it sometimes on a spindle gouge, mostly bowl gouges. My gouges are all Thompsons. 1/2 inch is the one I use 90% of the time, and I have a few of them. And rather than handle them all, I decided to get a collet handle. I changed my mind when I started pricing them, because even just for the collet, you're going to spend at least $50. If you want a metal one with the collet, it's going to go up dramatically. I made this one for about $10 with off-the-shelf hardware in the plumbing department at my Ace Hardware store. I'll show you how I do it. I'm not recommending that anybody do it. It may not work for you, but it works for me. I have a piece of ash mounted between centers. I prefer a long grain wood for handles, something like ash or hickory or white oak. Those would be my first three choices. No particular order. I think one's as good as the other. I just happen to have some 8/4 ash, so that's what I'm going to use. First thing I'm going to do is cut a tenon to mount this in my 4-jaw chuck so I can drill it. I'll use my skew for that. This fitting that I'm going to use, according to the tag, is a 1/2 inch compression by 3/8 FIP adapter. I'm not sure what all that means. What it means to me is that it will I can use it for what I want. I'm going to knock these corners off, and when I get done, this will just fit snugly in a 3/4 inch hole. So I'm going to go ahead and drill a 3/4 inch hole in the end of this shaft. It's not very long, so what I'm going to do is add a pipe nipple to give me the length I need to go into the handle of my go into the wooden part of my handle. This is a 3/8 by 1.5 inch nipple. And I want about that much buried. That's just about 1.75 inches. And so I'm going to drill my hole about 1.75 inches deep. Okay, I'm just I'm just over 1.5 inches in diameter here. You can see I didn't take the whole thing down. I did that for stability. I won't reduce the diameter on this until I get done working out here on the end. What I'm going to do now is take this off the lathe, and I'm going to turn down the brass fitting so it'll fit in my 3/4 inch hole. If you can see that, this is the turned down portion of the gouge to go into a handle. This piece that I've fabricated is about 1/2 inch, maybe 5/8 inches longer than that. When I epoxy this in the handle, I'll put enough epoxy in the hole that it will come up inside and fill at least part of this void. If I get too much in there, all I have to do after the epoxy hardens is to drill it out. I think that probably adds some strength to my assembly. I'm using epoxy with a cure time of about 30 minutes. Gives me a little longer to work than the 5-minute epoxy does. It's a little cheaper to buy it in this size container. Even though it says it has a 30-minute cure, I will let this set overnight before I do any more machining on it. Basic 1-to-1 mix. Nothing more exciting than watching glue dry. I'm going to coat the inside of this handle so I get good penetration into the wood. Now, I'm going to add some fiberglass strands to the mix. They add a tremendous amount of strength to epoxy. I get these, and most of the epoxy I use I get from Raka. That's raka.com. Great company to do business with. If you use a lot of epoxy or polyester resin, they're very good. Try to break the strands up a little bit so it's all through the epoxy. Now I'm going to drop some of this in the bottom of the hole so it will work its way up inside that nipple. I'm going to press this into place with my shopsmith, that way I know it'll be nice and straight. This is mineral spirits. Mineral spirits are very good at cutting epoxy. Plastic anyway, before it sets up. Make sure I don't have any epoxy on the threads. Okay, I will let that sit overnight and finish this up tomorrow. Okay, the epoxy has set up overnight. This is the epoxy that was left. And I can tell that it's set up good and hard. Put that piece of tape on there to show how far I want the gouge to go on my handle, and I can see that I've got to draw out a little bit of the epoxy from inside the nipple. So I'll do that real quick. Simple process. Just it's really hard, and the fiberglass strands really make it tough. A little bit more. Okay, that's good. The components of a compression fitting are a receiver and a ferrule and a nut. When used for plumbing, this goes on the pipe, and when the nut's tightened down, it crushes it. It's a one-time use thing. You can't get it back off. I don't want that to be the case here. What I'm going to do use my Dremel and cut a slot in that ferrule. Now when I tighten the nut down, it can collapse around the gouge, but I'll be able to take it back off if I want to. This is a piece of 1-inch copper pipe. I'm going to use that to make a ferrule for the end of my handle. So I'm going to go ahead and mount this in the lathe, turn this down for the ferrule, and shape the handle. Okay, to fit the ferrule, I'm going to mark where to make my parting cut. And I'm going to set my calipers to the outside diameter. Okay, I'll let that set up and finish shaping my handle. There are dozens and dozens of good videos out there about making tool handles, and from this point on I do it pretty much like everybody else, so I'm going to not spend a lot of time on that. I'll show you the finished product when it's all done. Well, here it is, ready for service. I sand my handles to about 250. I do not put a finish on them. They'll get plenty of oil from my hands and just use. I don't want them slick anyway. Nothing fancy, but very, very, very functional. I put a bigger ferrule on this one. I think I probably like that better. Gonna work just fine. Thanks for watching. If you like this, please subscribe, give me a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and see you next time.